Death by Disconnect: Is Academia and Industry Failing Design Research? Please join me in inviting Rajib Ghosh, our panel moderator. Rajib is a seasoned design and innovation leader. His work spans across large enterprises like Microsoft and Oracle, as well as startups. Joining Rajib are Arvind Lodaya, who is with us on Zoom. Arvind is an innovation and brand strategist and professor of design. Nandita Abraham, she is founding dean at BITS Design School. Nijoo Dubey, she is faculty lead, National Institute of Design, Bengaluru. And Dr. Raman Saxena, Professor IIIT Hyderabad. So, Rajib, over to you.
Thank you, Mayank. So I want to make sure Arvind can hear us. Arvind?
Yes, I can hear you.
So, very well. Warm welcome to everyone. Are you all sleepy?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, let's do one small exercise here. Okay? Are we ready? So I'm going to count number. Odd number, you clap once. Okay? Even number, you stomp once. Once. Okay, so I'm going to call numbers. Can you all stand up for a second, please? Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. It's really great privilege to have this panel with us today, and Arvind obviously online, and the combined experience on this stage and remotely. Can you guess how much it would be? How many years? Actually 120 plus years. So I'm not going to introduce our panelists. Instead, they will introduce it with a twist. So each of our panelists has brought one object with them. Not physically, but actually some of the objects, thank God, they are not there physically. And we will ask them to look at that object and talk about how it represents their self, their work, or their philosophy. Okay? So we will start with Nandita. Can we have the image here, please?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. That's me with my dirty hands and not very well cut nails. But I think as an educator, maybe especially as a design educator, it's a journey of sometimes pressing a little, knowing how much water to put in, sometimes releasing, sometimes what you're trying to make will collapse, but you can pick up the clay and try again. And always imagining what it could become. So, yeah, is that good? Thank you.
Thank you. So you won't get that on LinkedIn. You can get all professional details, but you will not get this insight about herself from LinkedIn. So that's why we chose this format. Next, Raman, please.
Okay, so when Rajiv asked me to share a picture,
so
I was
now
really
you
confused.
know why I said thank God physically it's
Yeah.
not here, right? Yeah.
So I was just thinking about what image I should send, and then I suddenly remember this is one rock which I pass multiple times, and even though I don't want to see it, still I see it, you know. So what I really see that, you know, I have like a long career span, starting as an engineer, moving into design, then within design playing product designer to this human computer interaction. And with a lot of, you know, changes in terms of corporate life, different companies, different countries, and I'm still stand, okay? So I think that is what getting weathered with all different kind of experience, this thing will still stand means I have something in me, yeah? So that's what the picture represents, so not anyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Nijoo, your turn. It's working.
So yeah, hi, glad to be here, Rajib and Shipra. Yes, what you see on the screen, it's a measuring tape. I love details, so I love to measure willy-nilly stuff with my eyes and with tapes. And that's a beautiful one, right? I mean, it's a little old now. It's actually a transparent skin, and it's a Muji tape that a friend of mine, I kind of took it from her. I think she brought it for herself. That's my friend Neha over there. And I think the reason why I chose this is that it sort of lies around in my house here and there. It's always visible. And the idea that, you know, as designers, we create objects, experiences, call it whatever you like, that resonate with us so deeply that they stay with us for decades and decades together. And that's, I think, you know, this whole sustainability, whatnot, that's how I think about design and designers. So therefore, this beautiful Muji measuring tape gifted by my friend. And I think it's so viscerally beautiful, right? But the fact that it embeds a certain reflective quality in it, the fact that I want to own it and keep it, no matter how, you know, dirty it becomes, I think that's the goal we are all trying to get to. So that's why.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, Arvind, your turn.
So, hello everyone. I was just messaging Shipra that I'm having like severe pangs of nostalgia at not being there. I was so looking forward to being there and being in person, but somehow things didn't work out that way. As it happens, I'm sitting in another conference right now on the topic of failure, which I think is also quite fascinating and quite relevant to the work that I'm doing currently. So the object I chose to show or share is obviously the Apple, but the real Apple, not the Apple logo. But it also kind of, I think, captures for me the fact that I am the generation that witnessed firsthand the Steve Jobs phenomenon. And in so many ways, the design icons and idols that we learned and studied and got inspired by while in NID, like the Eameses or the Corbusiers or the Buckminster Fullers and all of that, they were people of the past. Here, in our own lifetime, was a real design icon taking shape before our own eyes and doing their best work of their lives. So for me, that's been always a very, very powerful inspiration and motivation. The reason I chose a natural apple rather than the synthetic one is because, obviously, in response to the times that we are in, something that is much more organic, something that is much more rooted and grounded, something that is much more authentic is what I inspired.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now when you know these people, you will not know them only by their designation, but the object that they represent. So amazing. Thank you all for that. Now let's move on to the heart of the matter, right? And double click on the question which is at the center of our discussion today. Is academia and industry failing design research? I think it's a very important question to deal with. So audience, I need your participation here. Do you have your phones? How many of you have your phones with you? Okay, get it ready with your camera on, because the first question is to you. So please scan this barcode and you will reach a place where it will ask you the same question with a yes or no response. So while you are doing that, I will direct my attention to our panelists here and ask this important question, which is, we are talking about this disconnect. Can they shed some light on what this disconnect really is? And for this, we will choose two panelists here. To start with, Nandita.
I think, Rajib, there has to be that disconnect. There will be that disconnect because industry and academia have different goals, different purposes. For example, and we were talking over lunch today, in industry, you have to serve the needs of the business very quickly with very tight budgets, and you have to make something work now. Whereas in academics, we think we should develop knowledge, ponder about the ethics of what's happening in various aspects of research, work with students to help them develop their point of view and their version of what the design methods or research can be. So I think the purpose of both are different. There will be a disconnect, but that's why we're here, to try and figure out how can we change that.
Thank you so much. So a follow-up question on that, like how does this disconnect look like in real world? Like what does it how does it manifest itself?
I think you're going to see that on the screen, but I think it manifests itself with young people who are idealistic, excited, aspire to change the world, and companies who need people who will just sit down and do their work and make things happen.
Awesome.
So maybe disappointed young people and disappointed employers.
All right. With that, let me pose the same question to Arvind. So what does this disconnect really look like?
So I had, you had posed the question on LinkedIn, and I had begun my answer there, and I'll go back to that for a moment. There were three S's that I added there, which was roughly in the same lines of what Nandita was saying also. The S for scope, which means the scope of the research in the practice world is usually a lot more narrow and tight and very specific. The scope of research in academic projects is a lot more broader and open-ended. Scale is the second S. In the industry context, you require research findings based on a fairly substantial sample size in order to be authentic and in order to be actionable. Whereas in academia, although we learn about sample size and all that, we are quite often happy to settle for a scale of even 2 or 3 family and friend respondents, and everybody kind of winks and overlooks that kind of rigor aspect. The third, of course, is speed, which is again what Nandita referred to, is that industry wants results very fast, very, very quickly, whereas in academia, and I'm sure all of us have been through it as students ourselves, is, when your faculty member asks you how you're progressing on your project, the answer you always give them is, I'm still doing my research. So, research is this infinitely and unending kind of process, and it goes on pretty much till the day of the jury. That's the kind of reality of research from a student experience perspective. The fourth S that I would add to it is an S with a stroke, a vertical stroke, which is dollar, which means money. In industry context, you have a lot more resources invested into making sure that research is undertaken thoroughly and properly, and that the results are in a way actionable and trustable. Whereas in the student context, of course, in an academic context, you're always scrounging for funds to get good research grants done.
Got it. Thank you so much. Follow-up question on that very quickly. Again, how does this disconnect affect the industry and the students who are coming and joining that industry? Like, what is the feeling that kind of invokes for these people who have just joined a company, for example? Like, what does it really feel like? Any ideas about that?
I think the subjective experience from a student perspective who just entered into industry and is thrown at the kind of deep end of research, as it were, it is really discomfort, is really not knowing where they are and what they stand, finding that the environment that they are in speaks a slightly different vocabulary and has different jargon that they have not really been exposed to, or they might have just heard of it, but they have no idea how to deal with it, how to action it, and therefore I guess they would first be looking for mentoring. They'd be looking for somebody to kind of handhold them and interpret this for them and give them specific actionables which they are equipped to do it. Because there would be the resultant feeling of anxiety and insecurity in terms of suddenly being thrown in at the deep end and not knowing at that point how to swim your way through.
Got that. How many can relate to what Arvind is saying? Like, are there people who have recently joined an organization with research background? Raise your hand, please. How many of you do you relate to this? Very few hands. I don't know why, but all right.
Good.
Okay, so now we'll get back to the question we had asked the audience earlier and look at how audience felt about that. Can we go to the result of the poll, please? So that's how you have voted. Panelists, any reaction to this? Please say more.
So at least if you look at the current academia as well as industry, they're really seeking each other's. Yeah? So they have realized that they cannot grow individually. So at least as my academic career since 2013, whether it's in IIT Kanpur or now at IIIT, and with other institutes like IIM Bangalore, etc., I've seen that, they are really trying to cross that bridges themselves, because they realize that if they, especially in the current, the whole environment where the academia also has to earn their own money, the government is not going to fund it. So academia has no way other than actually reaching out to the industry. And since industry is in the mode of profit making, they really don't want to spend too much of money in-house doing it. So they definitely need academia. So in my experience, I have been doing so many projects with industry, and it's not that every time I'm reaching out to them. They are reaching out to us. So I think that's because it's the realization that we can't survive without being this.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Any other reactions from anybody else? We can take one question from the audience.
It's not very surprising. The result in that sense, it's just that our preoccupations are different. My preoccupation is how does the learner discover themselves and what is it that they wish and choose to do for the next 50 years of their lives. So I think it's just, I think it is how it is.
I'm sure you have more questions.
I wanted to take a question from the audience. Can you be a little louder, please?
Yeah.
Great. Correct. Great. We will delve into that as we progress forward. But if there are any quick reactions to that reframing, please.
So I think the way the question has been interpreted, which is fine, is there a disconnect? There is a disconnect. Is it curriculum? Is it how much research we put in? We can just, but there is a disconnect despite everybody's best effort. So we need to understand why.
Exactly right. So let's move on with that premise. And like you have nicely summarized, that gap exists, necessary or not, irrespective of that, right? And we have kind of a mixed opinion about that we can already see. So my next question is actually, again, first to the audience. Okay, can we have, so the audience question, what according to you is the one thing that is key to bridge this gap? Your response will be in a text field, and you can put one word or maybe one or two words. Don't write a paragraph or a story about this. So just keep it short, and then we will come back to that. Now, while you are doing that, we'll move to our panelists. And the question here is, what are the top 3 things that academia can do to prepare the students better for the world that they are getting into? And why is that not being done today? So we'll hear from all of our panelists, and we'll have 2 minutes each just to stay on time. We can start with Nandita, please.
I feel like I'm being put on the spot. Okay, that's okay. The question is, what can academia do?
What are the top 3 things that academia can do to prepare the students better for the world that they are getting into?
Super. I think that academia can and must reach out to the industry kindly, like Tarun put it, to really understand the why do they not have budgets? Why is time so important? Why does everything have to be the way that they want? So one is to reach out and understand. The second thing is to make our students more entrepreneurial, problem solving, wider viewpoint, and not just narrowly focused on themselves, their creativity and their craft. That's the second point. And I think increasing the amount of maybe experiential learning, so going into the field, going into companies, have people from the companies coming in, spending more time on that. So maybe those 3 things could help.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. So, Raman, please. Same question.
Okay, so look at this that, we are being trained as an engineer, then we are being trained as a designer, we are being trained as a business guys. Unfortunately, we trained in silos, okay? And industry really requires people who can work together. And most of the time, having worked in the industry for 25 years with best of the company like Siemens, Nokia and all, what I realized, we waste a lot of time in bringing these people coming from academia to on board, where they start understanding the whole thing together, yeah?
Yeah.
So I think to do that, the industry or the academia really has to work upon that. Okay?
Yeah.
Somehow we can break the silos, and just if I am a design school, I should keep teaching them design, but also introduce them to other subjects. And this is one of the reasons, like my comfort zone was in a design school, but I had to come out of the comfort zone and I'm teaching in a tech school just because I realized that's where I can actually much better than remain in this design school, because ultimately I really required to bring my ideas to realization, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, and the technology enablement has to happen in the current time. So I think this is one where you really have to look at how do you really create the multi-lenses to people, when you're teaching, like for example, right now I'm teaching intelligence system. Now intelligence system has human side of it. Intelligence system has all AI ML.
Yeah.
So if you just teach as an AI ML, you're creating a good engineer, but this engineer might not be very useful for the industry, because the industry will also look at how you're seeing from the user side of view.
Yeah.
So I think this one thing which require change in the curriculum, change in the delivery of the content, even the mindset. The other is academia, especially, and again, I don't know much about the design, but definitely in academia, in the technology world, our care is very different. We are promoted because of how many publications you have, okay? So what happened, my focus will become on publication, and publication is linked to POCs. Publication is never linked to products. So once I produce a POC and convert this POC into a paper, my life is over. I'm done. I move to the new thing because I will be able to publish the new paper. So I think that is where the academia has to change their KRA towards their faculty, because they really have to turn into this thing so that they are more valuable, this thing. And then, of course, looking at more partnership in terms of more engagement with the project. Like I give you an example, Alto University has a concept called Design Factory. Okay, so this is a place where academia is actually interacting with the industry in a very cohesive manner kind of thing. So how many really design school have the design factory kind of concept?
Yeah.
So if they can build that,
Great.
I think it will fill the
Thank
gap,
you.
yeah.
So, I mean, there is cross-silo work that is necessary not only within the institution, but also with institution and industry combined, right? Nijoo, your point of view on this?
I think first of all, I think research, like Professor Uday said, it's driven by curiosity, and neither academia nor industry can actually kill that curiosity. So one's wanting to find out things for what they are, truth as it's called in academics. That feeling, that kind of conviction to do that, that stays. So I'd just like to kind of place my thoughts under this umbrella that, neither of the two can actually can only do so much. Okay, let
Yeah.
me put it that way. I think what we can do, I'm a very to-do list person, so I do have a list, but I think definitely collaboration is something, so NID is very practice-led and largely practice-led, and I think sometimes it does become kind of a, it's good for us in a way, and so we've had plenty of collaborations with industries. In fact, I just met a couple of colleagues with whose organizations we did research projects. In the coming 2 weeks, we are doing the same with the M-Aadhaar team, UIDAI. So I think there are always possibilities. It's a question of understanding at both ends as to what the other needs, and framing it in a way that it helps the kind of the organization to move forward in their understanding of whatever they are working on. At the same time, I think, like I kind of briefly touched upon, that the academia's preoccupation is the student's own ontological perspective, and I can't stress this enough. I think our preoccupation is that how does the student discover themselves and what they wish to do. I think if I were to quickly run a poll in my own class, I'm so sure more than 80-85% at least will say that, yes, I do wish to pursue research. So it's a matter of discovering what you wish to do and what you feel comfortable in doing, and how do you then go about doing that. So I think it's just that. I think one thing we can definitely do together is building case studies. I think we have a little more time at our hands, and you all have great work at your end. And I think when the two meet and a certain kind of synergy happens, then I think that's going to be super valuable as far as academia is concerned. I definitely feel that another way of doing it would be that, let's say for example, so my research methodology course in fact starts in next 2 weeks time. So, and that's where we are doing the UIDAI course, the collaboration. But let's say, for example, if Microsoft, delineates certain number of projects which they could do with academia, which of course would also mean that the nature of the project is different and the outcomes expected are different, which might be slightly more exploratory research, as one calls it in research parlance. That would be fantastic. I think we definitely want more industry coming in as teachers.
Got it.
I think that will really give us a sense of how both work, and that will really feed into how the ecosystem in a way evolves and develops and in a positive direction.
So again, the theme is essentially more closer collaboration to, and that seems to be a common theme besides the other points that all three of you have mentioned. Arvind, your few 2 cents on this maybe.
So I have a slightly different take to offer. Not that I disagree with any of the panelists at all, but this is just a kind of provocative piece of thought, which is, if we question the political economy of research, some questions arise as to who is funding the research, who is benefiting from the insights, who frames the narrative about people, about people's lives, their needs, and so forth. So, to me, the academic industry divide is a lesser issue. And as Nandita said, and I agree with that, it needs to exist. The divide needs to exist fundamentally. Otherwise, we lose something. But the question here is, who benefits from the research? So when we, and for me, the opportunity that we have is to question some of our very basic framework or models which we apply in research. Who developed those models? What were they created for? And what do they actually give us in terms of insights or knowledge? Because we are not just representing reality, we are also kind of, framing it in a certain way and making it available to certain political or power aspects. We are deciding what really matters and to be included in our maps and what doesn't. So for me, the opportunity really is to find ways of bringing to the surface the community, the people that we are trying to research, the subjects of our research, how best to serve them through our methodologies, and maybe by chunking our methodologies, so be it, and coming up with alternative ways with which to surface their perspectives, their positions, their articulations or aspirations, and so on, and treat the commissioners of research, whether it's government, whether it's industry, whether it's academia, as providers, as service providers. Can we frame or flip research so that it allows communities to kind of control the narrative and make demands on the rest of the institutions to actually serve them in the way that they want to be served?
Got that. That's a slightly different point of view, but thank you for that. I have lots of follow-up questions, but then I think in the interest of time, we have to move on and we can have those conversations maybe after the session as well. Now, the second part of this question is obviously the flip side. What can industry do that can create a thriving research practice and career and work satisfaction in the organizations that they work in? We'll start maybe this time with Arvind, you first.
The best opportunities I've had actually to do meaningful or satisfying work from both a professional and an academic perspective come from the social sector, not so much from the corporate industry, unfortunately. Because the social sector, I've found in my experience, is really interested in the so-called real truth. Most corporate people that I've worked with, sad to say, are more interested in a kind of framework or a metric or whatever it is and where the hypothesis is almost already implied, if not actually conveyed. I've actually sat in on research briefing discussions where the research agency is pretty much asking the client in terms of what results they want to get from research. And they will accordingly, cue all the instruments and the procedure to give them scientifically valid results that they predefine. Now that's an extreme case perhaps, but I am, like from my experience, what I can say is that what industry should be ready for is to really open up risk, because that's the real, the challenge of undertaking research is that you may not find what you hope to find or expect to find. And if you are ready for that, then you can actually be a good patron or a good commissioner of research. But if you want research just to cover your backside and for numbers to justify your decisions and investments, then I'm afraid there's not much point.
Got it. Risk taking. We may not have time to go through all of you, but if you have a pertinent point you would like to raise, please, I would request you to. Please, Nandita.
Thanks. Thank you. I think one of the things, I'm trying to say maybe two, is that possibly industry or corporates can keep some funding aside, because of course research is done to make money and to be profitable, but maybe there can be some funding aside for broader research, which need not be something that you need an answer tomorrow and that's going to work, but how may young people connect to it, and which could lead to a lot of innovations later.
Yep.
So that's one point I wanted to say. And second is perhaps corporates or organizations can align their research objectives or align research with strategy, bring the researcher into the room, allow for some conversations, etc. Because yes, you'll get an answer to whether the button should be whichever shape it should be, but there might be much larger answers that can really work for the corporate.
Right, that's what Prachi was talking about earlier as well, right? Having a seat on the table.
Can I add?
Please.
So I think you look at it this perspective, if you are like, let's take a company like Meta, which is a real example. Say if I would have been an employee of Meta, I would not have got any chance to do a kind of a, longitudinal research or a longer research kind of thing, Whereas I'm being part of the academia, the same company was not ready to pay their employee for a future research, they are paying me 5 years funding, So there's a difference, So the company, the corporate, they are not giving funding to their own employee to pursue a future research, but they're giving it to us for next 5 years, a good amount of funding to see the future of metaverse. So I think that is where somebody has to look at it, why, when they can fund us, why can't they fund their own employee? So the whole perspective of the employee is like a deliverable, the kind of productivity, the time sheets and everything kind of thing. So I think this is about, it's not a problem with the company because company is anyways paying the money, but it's about having some sense, rather than spend on me, why not spend on your employee, or at least have some kind of a balance where maybe your employee work with me, rather than I'm hiring RAs and TAs and all kind of thing to deliver something which is which could have been larger value. I think so. Some sense has to emerge in the corporate for that. Yeah.
Got that. Thank you for that. You're good. Okay. Okay. So now let's go to the result of the poll. So the audience feels this is a word cloud. Where did it go? 0 responses. It was there.
Everyone was sleeping.
No, there were responses. Yeah, there it is. So maybe I'll read out. So the biggest word over here is creative, focus fast, transpiration, bold, leader. So that's, any reactions? Arvind or anybody over here?
Okay. Say again, actually, I missed it. I couldn't really.
We lost it.
I think the large word creative makes me really happy. I think sometimes we get kind of little sidetracked by so many other buzzy sounding words. So I think, wow, I think creative is nice. Creative is good. It's a
Got it.
superb one.
Any question from the audience on this? Yeah, there are some questions behind. Can we take one question, please?
So, reflecting upon whatever the panel just said, more than a question, it's kind of suggestion. So, all of you mentioned about the industry and academia collaboration thing. So, just like we have it in the US, we have the military industrial complex. Can we have something like the academia industry complex in India, where we can have a lot of profit-driven research which can be done? I'm not sure how. I just want to know if it can happen and how.
Universities, yeah, I think a lot of universities want to do long-term research with the industry, and yes, for sure.
So again, coming back to the same point that we have to earn our salaries, yeah. So we don't get the government funding. So naturally, you really have to find some ways where, and I actually believe there is no research which doesn't happen for profit. To be honest, whether it profits me and my institution or versus profits the, it's just about creating a balance where we are able to create a win-win situation for both. And that effort, I think it's happening. I personally have seen that it's happening in the government sector. Like we have so many products, so many projects coming from DRDO. We have so many projects coming from Ministry of Education. We have from the corporate like Meta, EA, they're funding because they really see that we can deliver the value. But the only thing is, why can't they engage their employee with us? I think that's the real value will come. And I think, I don't know why that mindset is, because here they don't have to fit into the timesheets. Yeah, when they work with us, we don't work on a timesheet. When they work with them, they work on timesheet. I think this mindset has to be changed from them, and I think the collaboration will definitely happen.
Will happen. Yeah, so as a theme, you can also see here, right? There are three things very prominent that's coming across: update curriculum, collaboration, and empathy. That's exactly what we are talking about. We will take one quick question over here, and then we'll move on.
I just had a hypothesis, maybe we can devalidate, validate. While it's accepted that longitudinal work and broader work, academia can do better, I also feel that sometimes there are very small focused problems, and in industry we tend to get into long process, there are a lot of baggages, people have preconceived notions. Sometimes maybe hackathons quickly can solve those problems and we can take a decision to do or not to do. Does that resonate?
Sorry, I'd like to say that just like we're saying industry should learn to do different kinds of projects, academia also should learn to do some short, quick, fine with failure, immediate projects, so that students learn, because the disconnect that we're talking about is also with the student when they graduate. So students need to learn in both ways. We want them to, dream and understand what it is that they want to do, but they have to also fit into a space where, and so it'll be great if industry comes in and gives a lot of these short problems, works with students, because that way we can learn also. I mean, we have to learn from each other.
Yeah, I think to do that, the curriculum also has to accommodate, right? So that is something that needs to be done as well. Nijoo, did you have a point?
I think hackathon, that nature of the way it is run and the kind of time sort of is needed to do that. Actually, the wonderful thing is that you really don't need to overhaul the curriculum for that. So in fact, I would say that's the lowest hanging fruit, and we should really go all out and just pluck that. And that's, I really believe in what in architecture is called a time problem. Yeah, where you deal with a very complex problem in very short duration, and sometimes under that certain kind of a pressure, certain people around you, you are able to kind of get to the root of the problem very quickly. So I think models like a hackathon does address that quite beautifully.
Can I?
Yeah.
Short.
Yeah, please.
So again, I'm really worried about this word called hackathon, So I really personally feel these are all the buzzwords which are being used because it's being heard, like it's happening like a design thinking. So, imagine every next day you'll find somebody saying, I'm conducting design thinking workshop because I have a template called shopping cart or something else. So I think we might get excited about it, but we also has to be really little bit this thing cautious about it, that because in the name of hackathon, I'm telling you, at least I see every day one information coming to my email ID that there is a hackathon being organized, But do we have the people, trained people to run those hackathon? Do we have the people to curate that hackathon in a manner where they can deliver the value? Otherwise, it becomes event. And if we are good at events, that does not mean that we are good at research kind of thing. I think so, buzzword, but not really making any sense, so we have to be very, very careful about it.
Thank you for that frank opinion. See, from my experience, Uday, please go ahead. Sorry? Yeah, please.
When I look at this picture, I'm putting my research hat on because I'm always thinking from everyday people's perspective, not from industry, not from anybody else.
Yeah.
So I like to use metaphor. So I put myself in the position of a child of a dysfunctional marriage. So here two parents are fighting.
Yes.
एक बोलता है मुझे समझता नहीं है, बोलते हैं बहुत खर्चा करती है.
ये आपको करना चाहिए.
कोई बोलता है इसको पैसा दिया कंप्यूटर के लिए, उसने खर्चा किया किसी और के लिए. एक बोलता है इसको पैसा दिया, उसने बेटी की शादी के लिए खर्चा कर दिया. And then what is really missing is collaboration and empathy between them.
That's
the two of
clearly
them.
out there, and I think the audience feels that as well. Very true, very true. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Now we'll move on to the next question, and this is probably going to be the final question given the time we have. To all of our panelists, one thing that you are committed to doing sufficiently bridge this gap this year, 2025. You are committing. This is the audience that you are committing to, that this is what I'm going to do.
In 2025, the BITS Design School commits to and has created a pathway in design, research, and insights. And I have two of my faculty members here, Ashish and Lakshmi, and Ashish is actually, his first step is to go out to Bangalore, Hyderabad, Bombay, Delhi, Pune, etc., meet the industry and understand and map out what is user research, what is design research, market research, where does it went together, and how can we create an effective pathway for students to access their dreams and be effective in the industry.
Awesome. Can we have a big applause for that? Raman.
I don't know how to answer this, but so it really doesn't work like a calendar, that every year you make, New Year has come and you make a resolution. Yeah, so I think, so I think it's about, if you're really committed to your community, whether you're a designer or engineer or anybody, academician or this thing, so you already make some commitment, which has happened. The only time is that you look back last year, what you did, where you succeeded, where you failed, and then you try to improve on that. I think so that way we definitely learned that we started a program in IIIT with an idea about why can't we make a better product managers, because the missing link with the product management was that either they were coming from the business school or they were coming from the engineering school, okay? So we started this commitment that let's bring the product manager who work on an intersection of human-centered design, technology and business. So this commitment is not happening now, it's happened, but definitely we are learning every year and we are realizing that we will have much more collaborative projects with the industry. We are already talking with terms with a lot of companies and all, and we want that, rather than academician or people like us, researchers running this program, industry, academia, partnership run this program kind of thing. So we are bringing in a lot of changes this year, and anybody who is interested in being part of our advisory board or a part of our board of studies kind of thing, we are most welcome, because we are looking for good ideas, good inputs to improve this program.
So connect with Raman if you're interested. But it has to show results. You
Yeah.
heard what people are wanting. So
Yeah, so I think it's a collaboration here.
Yes.
So we can together do a better work
Absolutely.
and do better. Yeah.
Nijoo.
Yes, I think I agree with Raman that, sometimes our planning and goals, all that is much long term, and the thinking has happened much before for what we're going to do in the next 9 months or 10 months or how many months have you have left. So one of the things that we have been working on and which is going to happen very shortly is that we're looking at more research chairs within our institute. Which is where also we would be inviting other academicians, other corporates, industries to actually come and work with us, and some of them also lead these chairs. So that's the sort of institutional goal, I would say. As far as coursework is concerned, I did share with you all that whatever the research methodology course, which is too short, okay, it's just 1 week course.
Yeah.
So I can commit to the fact that I'll go out and fight that, give me another week, and I promise that I'm going to try my level best for that. As far as my own sort of goal is concerned, yes, with my PhD, I do need to take it out there much more, the output, which is very practice-led, and I need to kind of sort of put it out there for reviews and for critiques and criticisms and all of that. So I promise I will do that as well.
Thank you for that commitment. Folks, big applause. And finally, Arvind, your commitment.
So as a non-institutional designer or academic, I can happily commit to all the three individuals on the panel right now that I'm happy to engage and support your endeavors in your own institutes in whatever way that I can. But personally, I think my kind of resolve would be to work harder when I'm face to face with students to give them the confidence that comes from really being at ease with people. And I think that's something that has, in the world of theory and frameworks and publishing and all that, it seems to have somehow got diminished. I remember that when, how we learned design research was really at the deep end. We were really in the field. We had to kind of, make relationships, we had to establish conversations, we had to find information or generate data. And all of it had to be done in context on site and not sitting on a computer or not kind of working with textbooks and so on. And I think, at least speaking for myself, a lot of my general confidence as a designer and as an academic and as a practitioner also comes from that strong sense of identification and empathy with people at large.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I would want to work harder to try and instill and bring out in the students that I work with.
Amazing. Big round of applause. So that sounds very inspiring, and I think we would definitely see results. I'm hopeful. People, like, what do you think about these commitments? Hopeful, not hopeful, like, whatever, like. Awesome. Great. Last words, Raman, you wanted to say something?
No.
Oh,
It's
okay.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
we are already running
Okay,
out of time.
so thanks a lot to our panel for this great discussion. We will open this up for any questions now. We'll have a few questions. Maybe we have time for a few questions? Okay, awesome.
Hi, my name is Sahana. I have one quick question. Throughout this entire discussion,
Is it specifically for somebody?
I think for the panelists, all of them, I think it was really interesting discussion, and being someone who was in a design school, then going into a company, there were a lot of things that I resonated with, and you saw the answer yourself. My question is, how can academia change the way that you evaluate your students' work with like marks and okay, you're going to fail or you're going to pass? Because a lot of times design in the real world can be very context related, subjective, and vice versa. How can companies adopt this incentivizing nature of academic environments wherein we can bring in and foster that innovative and creative nature that students have in colleges?
Anybody would like to take that up?
So, I think, Neha, you remember we were at this thing, and exactly the same location. So I think the academic institution, being a design student also from NID, what I've seen is that we are prepared to become an operational designer, okay? whereas corporate doesn't look only for operational designer, okay? So when you say design, there is an operational role of a designer, which is about delivering artifacts. You do research, you map those research, generate insight, generate design ideas, fulfill those design ideas, take for evaluation, all kind of things. This is one level. But they're not expecting you to do just this, okay? And I think that's where I feel that our academic institutions, especially design institutions, are failing, that they are not able to prepare you to the next level. And we believe the next level is equal to senior designer, then team lead, then becoming design manager and all. It's really not about that. It's actually about the new role, which you can still do being an operational designer because I still design, okay? It's not that I don't design anymore. So my operational role will be there till I'm alive, yeah? But if I want to establish my value, if I want to establish the value of design, I really have to generate a lot of tactical value and strategic value, I think, yeah? So I think the biggest challenge our design school is facing is they're not preparing you for that tactical role and a strategic role, okay? And that's the reason I'm telling you, I'm sorry to say, that once the company have some problem, the first people are fired are the design, okay? Because we are not able to create a tactical and a strategic value to this, yeah? So I think we really, because design doesn't live in a silo, okay? So if we are able to see that what is my role within the organization with other function, I actually learn about the tactical role of mine and I generate much larger value which I generate only as an operational designer, okay? And once I graduate from there, I start seeing how do I add revenue to the organization. Like, it's not about being a cost center. It's about becoming a profit center. The profit center are the loved one people in the organization, okay? They're given more power, they're given more value and all. So I think we don't know how we are educated towards building strategic value. So I think if we are trying to, and especially like you are building a new school, if you are able to do that, I think you do the great justice to the designer, and that's the only way you establish yourself in the industry. Otherwise, you will be an operational role, you will be a cost center, nothing else.
Yeah, Nandita, so I think the initiative that you are talking about hopefully would bring in these insights to design the curriculum accordingly when you are collaborating with industry and trying to understand what the needs are, right?
Super. I think the premise on which we were set up was to have transdisciplinary learning. So if you're studying design methods, inside that you have to understand the value that you're bringing. You have to understand the funding of the organizations that you're working with. Yeah. So management, technology, human behavior, etc. inside each. Because if you're not able to create value, then what's the point? And to answer your question, I think now I'm sure all academic institutes are starting to evaluate that way. So we are evaluating on the ability to collaborate, ability to think critically, etc., and not just on how well you draw. So and maybe corporates also can, through their learning and development, or initiate like a learning vertical, so that they also continuously have this aspect of academic learning and evaluation within the organization.
Folks from industry, I hope you're listening what's kind of expected. We will take one more question, maybe.
You are saying to the right side. Also see the left
side. So one more question. This is the last question. Sorry, we don't have time. But you can interact afterwards also in the social evening as well. So one question. Yeah.
It's also very, very important because this is why the first user research conference, right? The focus is on research, right? How can research stand independent without that sort of need for design? Because that's where the value and the impact of research is seen within organizations. Yeah. So my sense is that is there a way that education institutions will some way prioritize research courses, research-focused courses, which will set equipping students to be graduate as user researchers?
Yeah, so this is something, Nandita, you and I had discussed earlier about the focus and giving it enough time and the specialization in that. to equip them properly around that. So anybody wants to add, Arvind or?
Arvind, you want to add something?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The question is that, like, why do you want to put research with design? What about research as it is? Like user research, can that be a discipline by itself?
Simply the answer is yes. Of course it can. It's a function of sustainability, whether the market exists in a mature form or even in a sufficient form to support professionals and pay them decent wages, etc., give them enough security and stability to be able to practice that. The fact that user connect consultancy, for example, is such a flourishing practice, it testifies to the fact, and there are many more like that. It testifies to the fact that there is already a market that is actually supporting professionals who do nothing but user research. So there is definitely a case for a specialization in that. The question is how many, where, and who. That's really a kind of business matrix kind of.
Super. Yeah. And maybe just to add to that, do we want something so hyper specialized, or do we want a researcher who can work and understand with product, with the engineering department, with strategy, etc.? Will that create a better user researcher?
So let's keep that as an open question to be discussed during social hours.
Rajib, can I add to that?
Yeah, very quickly.
Yes, like half a minute. I think what we are interested in is an empathetic positioning, and we are interested in design, and we are interested in users. So I think I do like the term design research slightly better. I think because designers, the way we do research is slightly different. It's a certain perspective to research that we bring to the world. And that perspective is very valuable, I feel. Our mindsets are different. The way we see the world is different. The way we experience the world is different. And that manifests as praxeologies and methods and tools and all of that. So I think bringing that, I think, is very unique. And I would want to sort of hold on to that.
Lovely. So we can go on for an hour, but we don't have any more time. So thanks a lot to our panelists. A big round of applause. And to you all as well for engaging with us. Thank you.